Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I am so very glad that you did because I have a 2-for-1 card video for you. Of course, it's a Christmas card. Get comfy and let's get crafty. I will be using these previously colored Santa images from the My Favorite Things Holly Jolly Santa stamp set. Because it is Santa Claus, I must own it, right? I will also be using the MFT wood plank stamp set. I have the Lawn Fawn Windows dies, and we're going to create a couple of scene cards. The first thing I want to do is stamp the wood plank stamp onto a piece of craft cardstock. This is just a really lightweight cardstock I picked up at Michael's, I think, and I want the planks to run vertically because this is going to represent the outside of a house looking through the window. So I am going to ink this up with some, this is Stampin' Up! Ink. It's called baked brown sugar. I don't know, something like that. I can't find the ink pad on my desk. Called baked brown sugar. I was right. It's an old ink pad. It's an old ink color, but I'm using my big ink pads for this stamp, and those are the ones I have. I am going to stamp this twice just to make sure I get a nice image, which is not necessary with a red rubber stamp because red rubber stamps stamp awesome. Or rubber stamps. I guess they don't have to be red. They could be blue or purple, whatever. I am going to go ahead and trim this down to a 4 by 5 1/4 inch. Sorry, no, this is going to be a full card front. So this is going to be 4 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/2 inches tall. And this will create a top folding portrait style A2 US A2 size card. I am then going to use these Lawn Fawn window dies, and I'm going to cut the window in the front of this card panel. Now I kind of have a sketch. I traced the window on a piece of scrap paper to make sure that the images I want to use will all fit. So I am going to go ahead and run this through my die cut machine. I also, wow, words are hard, die cut the window out of white cardstock 3 times. And I am stacking up those 3 white cardstocks on cutouts. Wow. The 3 white window cutouts on top of the wood grain one that came out of our card panel. And this creates the outside edge of our window panel. I now need to create my card base because the front of the card base is going to act as the interior wall. So I have a piece of kind of a taupey gray cardstock. It is cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, scored, 4 1/4 by 11, scored in half at 5 1/2. And this is the front of my house looking inside. Now I needed that wall to have just a little bit of interest. So I've pulled out the My Favorite Things Moroccan Lattice stamp set, and I'm going to position that in my MISTI, and I'm going to ink this up with Versamark ink. I am using Versamark because I'm going for a very light pattern, and almost not there pattern, just something to add a little bit of interest to the background. I don't want it to jump off because this is not the focal image of my card. I did realize I was getting some ink on the back of the card, so I went ahead and put a piece of Post-it tape across that card seam, the fold there, and I inked that up one more time. And here I'm trying to show you that you can see it, but in real life, you can see it on camera, not so much. Next, I'm going to adhere the house outline, the wood plank panel to the front of our card base. And I am just using a double-sided adhesive with my ATG tape runner. Oh my goodness, words, you guys, today. I don't even understand. They're not coming out of my mouth properly at all. And anyway, now we have the front of our house assembled, and I'm going to be using this chimney and this Santa. And this set of images is created in a way that with either some masked stamping or some creative cutting, we can make it appear as though Santa Claus is coming headfirst down out of that chimney. So I have taken a cutting mat and a craft blade, and I've cut a slit in that fireplace just under the bricks, and I am sliding Santa Claus up into that chimney. This will require me to cut off his feet. Don't cry, it doesn't hurt Santa Claus. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to the card front but I want to line it up properly. Like I don't want it like this where the window pane is right down the middle of his face. I am going to slide that fireplace off to the left just enough that you can see the majority of Santa's face through one of the window panes. I pulled out a pencil and I'm just making some little registration marks so I know where to put this fireplace back down after I glue it all together. So I'm putting a little bit of glue behind Santa's head to add him down there firmly. And then I am going to add glue to the back of my fireplace. And I'm going to slide it just underneath this left-hand side and then line it back up with my registration marks, which is why I am using liquid glue, because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And you can see I am struggling a little bit here. I'm kind of trying to miss the struggle bus, and I'm all off camera and stuff, but look at that. Look how cool that is. Now there are a couple of Christmas stockings in the stamp set as well, and I have stamped and colored 4 or 5 of these. I end up only using 3, and I'm trying to make sure that I angle them properly. I know that when we hang our stockings on our fireplace, sorry, I'm trying to push off a yawn, that they kind of hang at an angle, not flat. So that's what I'm trying to recreate here. Now we just need to add our window to the card panel. So I'm going to again use some liquid glue. I'm going to put a little bit on all of the pieces. And this is just to, again, add some wiggle room so that I can get it kind of locked down in the cutout part of that window frame. I'm going to hold it for just a minute till the glue starts to adhere. And I'm looking at it and I'm loving it. I do want to pick a sentiment. I'm going to use this one that says you're at the top of Santa's list. So I am going to go ahead and stamp that on a piece of scrap white cardstock. This is the same cardstock I used to cut the extra window panels. And I am going to ink that up with the VersaFine VersaClear Nocturne Black ink, and go ahead and trim that out with my paper trimmer off camera. And then I decided I needed a little something something. So I'm going to take this Sunny Studio tree stamp set and a set of 3 Copic markers. These are my YG6 family, 6-1, 6-5, and 6-7. And I am going to color in these trees. Now I'm not going to color in the trunks because you won't see them. And I have turned them upside down, and I am using the flicking technique, and I'm putting the darkest color of ink down first, and I'm only putting it right under each layer or each row rather, of pine needles. And then I will take the mid-tone and do the same thing. The flicking motion kind of gives it that visual look of the pine needles. It also works really well on hair and fur and other things you want to have texture. I did have a bit of a Copic overfill again, and so I've got a Kleenex there off to the side when my Copic decides it needs to burp a little bit of extra ink out. And I've also taken off the other end, which kind of helps equalize the pressure a little bit. I saw that on somebody else's channel. I heard them say the same thing. I think it was probably Kelly Taylor, talking about equaling out the pressure in your Copic pen. For the third color, I have turned my trees right side up. I am still starting at the darkest part of the needle, which is right under each layer, and pulling them down. But I turned it right side up so I could make sure I got down to the ends of the needles. And I went out of the lines because I was going to fussy cut these little trees. I have also gone ahead and outlined them in a black zig pen so that you don't see that white core. I'm saying a lot today. Sorry, I don't know why. I want to add these trees to the outside of the bottom of the window just for a little bit more contrast and interest. I will be putting a piece of 3M foam tape along the bottom of the tree and then putting liquid glue at the top end of the tree because I have that window pane 4 layers deep. So I need the liquid glue to be behind the bottom to give it kind of the same height. I'm going to do the same thing on all 3 trees, adding foam tape to the bottom of the tree and liquid adhesive on the rest. I'm also putting some glue on the foam tape itself so that I have a little bit of, again, wiggle room. I want these trees to hang off because that gives them the illusion of being as tall as the actual house. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim off whatever hangs off the edge of the card. And I just have a little pair of scissors here. I could have used my paper trimmer, I suppose, but the scissors were on my desk from cutting the foam tape. So winner, winner, chicken dinner. And I'm just going to clean that up as best as I can. It is a little bit difficult when there's foam tape involved, but the last step for this card is to add a mat to the back of the sentiment. I'm going to put the sentiment across the top of the window sash, and it is the same color, so that mat will help it pop off just a little bit. I will add a little bit of double-sided adhesive, and using my reverse clamp tweezers, I can line that up just right between the stitching marks around the edge of the window. And this is the completion of card number 1, except for I need to add the white copy paper to the inside of the card. This is just that little trick I do so that I have a nice, crisp, clean place to write a message to the recipient. So this is now the last step of the first card, and we are just like 10-11 minutes into the video. Now, admittedly, a lot of the hard work of this card was done previously, but now we're moving on to card number 2, and I have 1 Santa Claus, 2 reindeer, and a sleigh from this same stamp set. I have also selected a couple of other colors of ink. I have a light purple and a light blue. I have some blending brushes. I have some piece of Nina Solar White cardstock, 80 pound, and I have 2 stencils, the My Favorite Things Clouds and the Honeybee Rolling Hills. And I am going to create, again, a scene card, but this one is going to be inked. So I'm going to take this light blue ink and my blending brush and create the idea of some clouds back here on this card panel. I am going to create multiple layers of cards, and then I am going to add hills at the bottom. My idea for this card is to have Santa and 1 reindeer standing in a snowbank, and the second reindeer and the sleigh up in the sky as if they are having some flying practice, like they're getting ready for Christmas Eve. I am just going very, very light. In fact, on camera, you can't really even hardly see how light these clouds are. In real life, it is a little bit more visible. I'm going to use the purple on the snow. Now, all things considered, if I was going to do this again, I would probably use a gray, because this purple isn't quite light enough for the way I want it. There we go. The snowbanks are just a little too pronounced, especially compared to the clouds. So I do want to add the Santa Claus here to this snowbank right up here. Yeah, I probably could have put him down a little bit more. I kind of thought if I put him up on the second snowbank, I could put the sentiment down in the bottom corner, but it didn't fit. So I had to rethink that as well. And then I'm just going to take this reindeer and the sleigh up to the top. I am going to cut just a little bit underneath the foot of the Santa Claus and then under the feet of the reindeer, just so that it looks like they're standing behind the snow just a little bit. It kind of grounds them to the card panel. Oh my goodness, the ums today. Boy, I want to give them the visual impression of being not just floating above the snow, if that makes sense. I am using liquid glue or liquid adhesive. This is Tombow Mono glue, so that I have a little bit of work time. I did get him kind of wedged down in there. Took a minute, won't lie. Now I'm working on the reindeer, just the same. Gonna kind of try and get him down in that little niche I just cut into my card panel. And then I need to adhere the sleigh and the reindeer. Now, I did have this whole bright idea of making it look as though the reindeer was attached to the sleigh. And I won't lie, I did. I drew it on there, and I did it at the whole wrong angle. So I covered it up with white gel pen. You won't even see that I had drawn a line on there, and you can't really, even in real life, tell that I covered it up with white gel pen. So now it comes time for the sentiment. I am using the Wishing You a Holly Jolly Christmas stamp set, but it's going to go right to the edge. So I need to turn my card in my MISTI the other direction so that I can line up that stamp, and then I will flip it around and stamp it and create my card base. I am pulled out a piece of 8.5 by 11 inch red cardstock. I'm going to cut that in half at 5.25. Sorry, 5.5 by 4 by 11. Oh my goodness, measurements today. 4.25 inches by 11 inches tall and score at 5.5. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I should know this. And I know you've heard me say it before. So I'm not sure how come I feel like the compulsion to tell you how big this card is. It's a US A2 size card. There we go. I'm just going to start saying that from now on. US A2 size card. I am taping the panel to the front of my card with double-sided adhesive. And then I'm going to put the copy paper on the inside, and card number 2 is complete. So again, the bulk of the work of these cards was done when I colored these images for my crime and coloring, but it made 2 super cute cards. I hope you enjoyed this Speedy Gonzalez version of the card making process. I thank you so much for stopping by. I have a couple of other videos here I think you might like, as well as a subscribe button. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and have a holly jolly day.